Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of Lack of Focus, episode 100. And damn it, I'm going to have to cut because I forgot the title because I didn't write this one down. Damn
Yeah,
it.
a clean century or a
That's
century.
what it was.
I can change it. What do you want the title to be? I just made something up.
Oh, you're right. You're good. You're good. I just drew a blank. Literally, I got into my intro and I just forgot my line. That's what it was. Take two. Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another episode of Lack of Focus, episode 100, a clean century. I am your host, Ed Horn, and alongside me tonight, my good friend, Mr. Sean Dorsey. Sean, how's it going, my friend?
Good, Ed. How you doing?
Good. And, of course, our producer extraordinaire, Mr. Kris Sheriff. Kris, how's it going, my friend?
Good, thanks, Ed.
100 episodes of this show. I can't believe we have done one. We blew past the old show. I'm not even going to say the old show's name. We blew past that one a while ago, but we've hit that one key mark, like one of those milestones in the histories of podcasts to do this 100 times. And there's more. We've done in focuses, we've done D&D sessions, there's all kinds of stuff, but 100. Holy cow. So anyway, we're gonna do what a normal show, basically, for all intents and purposes. We don't really have a ton special planned for this one beyond some mushy stuff I'll say at the end, because these guys know me; they know I'm gonna be mushy, and that's just gonna happen. But we're gonna be going
I
over.
would disagree. I would say that this is probably the most special episode we've done in a long time.
It is. It absolutely is, because for once, I'm going to carry the X-Wing content on the flight deck today, because Ed's actually played not one but two games of X-Wing under the new 2.5 rules and the new missions. So I'm gonna have a lot to talk about today.
Go.
Um, well, I don't want to lead in. I want to see what everybody else is doing first. So of course, Sean, I'm going to kick the ball over into your general direction. What have you been doing lately?
Wait, I've got to guess. Let me see if I can guess. There's something about a Raspberry Pi.
I'm kind of sorry. When he's done setting it up, it's going to be great. He's going to love it. It's going to do everything he wants it to do. But I feel bad he's having trouble with it.
Yeah, you could say Raspberry Pi. That would be a good start. I'm like on this fixation now with old arcade games. I do have actually X-Wing content. It's not playing games, but I'll get to it when I'm right at the end, kind of as the grand finale of it. But um, I how do I want to put this? So Ed and I were having a conversation kind of over our text chat and about arcade games and he suggested the Raspberry Pi. So this nightmare is Ed's fault when you
It
get
is
right down
100% my
to
fault. That's why I said I feel bad.
it. um so Ed suggested a Raspberry Pi for arcade because I love arcade games. And you got to remember I'm ancient. I grew up in the time of we actually had a Pong. We had the Atari, I don't remember which one. We had both at one point the six button and the 4 button Ataris. I
Ooh.
don't know where the 4 button Atari came from, but we had one. And then I got a Commodore VIC 20, which is literally the most worthless computer, even though it was one of the most heavily sold computers at the time, because you had no way to save, so you could do programming. And then when you shut the machine off, you lost everything. And later on, they came out with the cassette tape drives, which people today would be, appalled by having a, two 30-minute side cassette tapes that you could record information on. And this was back in the day of CompuServe, and you had to buy the modem and then hook up to it. And then in the mail, you got the 10 hours free CompuServe time. And then you needed your parents' credit card and, that nightmare. This was before AOL and that,
Oh God,
sending
yeah. That was the
sending you the
internet.
discs.
The internet was in a very infantile stage at those points in times. It was mostly a lot of message boards and
Yep.
bank and military transactions. That's
Right.
it.
And that's there it was all message board at the time. But during this time to me was the greatest time of video games where not only did you have Space Invaders come out, you had you had just this plethora of arcade games. And when I was a kid, where I grew up, about 5 blocks from my house was an arcade, an actual arcade called Space City. And I think it was there from like 80 to 83. And then the people that lived near it threw a huge fit and, basically ran it out of town. And this was before what you call grand arcades, where you had, hundreds and hundreds. This had whatever, all the arcade games that were out, plus they would get the newest arcades. And what was cool about this place was you would walk in there with a $5 bill, put it in the coin changer, and it gave you 40 tokens.
Yep.
And this is back before you had to shove 8,000 tokens into a machine to play it. It was a 1-for-1 exchange. So if you wanted to play Galaga, you put in a token and it played it and stuff. So there's a lot of games that I grew up with. The original Star Wars game with the cool flight controller.
Love that. They did a stand-up version. I think the sit-down version by far is the definitive version of that game.
Correct. Yeah, they did 2 versions, and then later on, 80 and 83, they came out with Empire and then Return of the Jedi in video game form, which I'll get into that portion of it a little here in a second.
Space Invaders was 82, wasn't it?
No, I think it was 79. I think.
I'll live fact check you here while you're doing it.
Yeah.
Point being, continue on with your story.
So anyway, so you had, back then you had, I can't remember the name of it, but it was the Tank Command game.
No shit, 78. You are right.
Yep, 78. So you had a Tank Command game, which was a polygon. You're in a tank. I can't remember the name of it, but you would shoot at stuff, and
I think it was Tank Commander.
Something like, yeah.
I'm sure I had it on the Spectrum ZX220.
Or Battle Zone. It was either that or Battle Zone.
Battle Zone was Atari's ripoff of Tank Command.
Okay.
I'll check.
Okay. So anyway, so they had whichever one it was, Tank Commander or Battle Zone. And then, of course, Tron came in and Miss Pac-Man. And, of course, Pac-Man was there.
Love Tron. Such a cool game.
And the cool thing about this place, it didn't have pinball machines. It was literally all arcade. Frogger, Gorf, which is a game that I've searched for long, low, and high, and it's one of my favorite games just because it's a game that I remember actually beating.
In the arcade?
In the arcade, I actually beat it. I got very lucky beating it, but I beat it. So you had the plethora of the old 78 to 82, 83. When Dragon's Lair came out, that's when you went to 2 tokens. So that kind of ruined the concept of the game, but I get why, because the whole point of arcade games,
Battle Tank.
Battle Tank. Okay.
Thank you.
So the whole concept of arcade games back then was they would get harder and harder and harder relatively quickly, because the goal was for you to die and pump another quarter in,
Right.
And
back in those days, those were the games that didn't necessarily all have endings. It was just high scores.
Correct.
So
they
pumped up the difficulty level to eventually make you lose your quarter.
Right. And that was the arcade that I grew up with. And then of course I got the NES when I was in high school, and that's one of those things that takes you down a different rabbit hole of gaming, and where you rip your fingers up trying to do track and field because you're rubbing across the A and B keys to try to run fast when you're trying to do whatever it was, that you're trying to do. And then you learn to use a penny to do it, and, so that you can do all that. And of course, before that, though, was the time of Galaga, the time of, like I said, Space Invaders, Pac-Man. So anyway, I'm in a search for all these games, and Ed and I were talking, and one of the bad things for me is that I'm an adult and I have adult money, and I have enough.
It's a bad problem to have sometimes.
Sometimes it's a bad problem to have, and by the time Ed and I were done talking on our text, I had already ordered 2 1-up arcade machines.
Which is not what I suggested. I want to make sure repeat that was not on my suggested list.
I understand. But there is something about playing those in stand-up arcades.
There is. I
know?
100% agree. 100%
So
agree.
so then I was impatient because I ordered those, I think, on a Sunday or Monday or whatever, and they were supposed to arrive yesterday, which they did. But in that meantime, we have a local store called Nebraska Furniture Mart, which is also a deal or an outlet for some of those games because there are special versions of the games that are in retailers from One Up Arcade, and of course they had the Pac-Man game,
Aw.
which had Pac-Man, of course, which I'm not a huge fan of Pac-Man, but it had Dig Dug on it, which Dig Dug is one of my all-time favorite games, and I could go on a whole reasoning for it and the why all these games are so important, but it had that and a couple other games too that I like. And then I bought the Atari one because it has Tempest, Space Invaders, it has Missile Command. So, a lot of those early games are in the Atari one. And then I bought it's the Konami, or was it? No, I bought the Midway one. The Pac-Man one is Konami Bandai because the two companies merged. And then I bought the Midway one, which has Galaga, Galaxian, Gauntlet, Joust.
Mhm.
So it had 5 games that I'm interested in. And I think it has 6 that I'm interested in. I just can't remember the 6th one. So basically, I bought stand-ups, and they're not full size, which my house isn't big enough to have a bunch of stand-ups. And so in this process, I'm like, okay, well, now I'm going to turn part of my house into an arcade, which is really my living room, dining room area will become an arcade. And then I'm like, well, they sell Tron, so that's the next one I'm going to
Oh
buy.
my god.
So Tron is the next one. I'm going to buy Golden Tee 3D, which has a whole bunch of the Golden Tee games. I'm going to buy Frogger because that one has 1942 and 1943, which, if you really want to win my heart, those are 2 of my all-time favorites.
The dawn
So,
of the shmup.
yeah. So Frogger, which is fun, but 42, 43. And then the Star Wars game. I'm going to get the Star Wars stand-up
I was just I'm
game.
on their website now. Like I'm looking to see which ones they have.
Right now they're out of all 3 that they have Tron, but they're out of the other ones. But I bought the collectors ones, the Legacy or whatever they call them,
Yep.
the collectors editions with the multi games and stuff. So my goal is to get those games, and then I'm going to on the Raspberry Pi get the other games that I can't get, and which is Gorf, which is all these other games that I so badly want to play, and then NES games and probably some Sega games and the older, maybe a few are Atari games, but I'm not that thrilled. I was never thrilled with Atari to begin with, and then whatever other ones that I look and find. But this is the thing that a 52-year-old guy does when he has adult money, is he spends money.
So what I can tell you on the Pi, it emulates everything pretty well right up until about the disc era of video games. So it
Oh,
runs.
that's the other one I'm going to get is the Dragon's Lair game.
Yeah, that's on there. I think that's the Daphne emulator that'll have those. You'll have that, and then the space one. I can't remember the name off the top of
Well,
my
I'm gonna
head.
I'm gonna buy the stand up though. The one up has the Dragon's Lair, and so I'm gonna have like 5 or 6 arcades in my dining room, living room, 2 in my office total. So I'll be able to play whatever I want, and then the Raspberry Pi on the TV base.
So can we please make for the record that Ed's recommendation was a Raspberry Pi, not $3,000 worth of stand-ups in your. Because keeping in mind, the Raspberry Pi will play all of those games too. Just throwing
Yes,
that out there.
but they won't be the same.
It
It
won't.
won't be
It
that.
won't. I agree. It will not have the same look and feel of actually being at a stand-up. I 100%
You
agree
know,
with
I
that.
if I still smoke, I can't put my cigarette on the edge of the arcade machine, like you could in some arcades when you could smoke in them, and
Yep.
watch the thing burn down while you're playing, and things like that. there's just a lot of nostalgia to have, and even though they're not full size, true full size, it's still a 17-inch screen. And dude, it's big enough. That screen is, because they were 23-inch tubes, I believe, way back when,
They were
and they were too
for
big.
most.
Yeah, for most. And the 17-inch, and you can go out and you can buy cases. You can buy a stand up to like 50 some odd inch, and it's like I don't need that. I if I want to do that, I'll just put my 55-inch TV, build my own case, and do that. And I don't want to do that. So it just this is my way to game. I love this kind of gaming. And before we started the show, I was telling these guys, I really don't. I have over 100 games on Steam, and I barely play any of them. I play one or two right now, and
Well, that was the beauty of the arcade era kind of games. Like, I think that's something that's kind of lost. I hate getting on the I should put my get off my lawn hat kind of
oh
thing.
yeah, but the
That
nostalgia,
the nostalgia for us, but like they don't make games the way that they used to back then. Like
oh
those
no,
games there are designed for pick up and play. Like I don't have
yes,
to go through a 35-minute tutorial to find out what every button combination does. I'm not committing to 8 to 10 to 12 hours. Like I just want to get like 10 games of Galaga in and see if I can set my high score. I can do that in 30 minutes. Kind of a
yeah,
thing. Like they just don't design games that way anymore. It's moved on to a different era. Even arcade games of today aren't built under that same
no,
thought process. They're just not.
they're not. And even playing. So I also in Ed saw it. I think I put a picture. Did you see the joystick thing that I made with the
I think
buttons?
I
With
think
the
I did. Let me go
with
back and look.
the with the light up buttons and stuff. So I built an arcade joystick thing with light up buttons and all that I can play using the RetroPie. I can play games with and stuff. And so that'll give me an arcade feel too.
It
It'll
will.
sitting down in my recliner playing a game way too far back from the TV, but that's what's cool about it is being able to do things like that. And um yeah, so that's the majority of what I've done. And then today I went to the game shop here in Omaha, which is going to be starting up in person X-Wing in a couple weeks,
Yay!
which is nice to see. Um, they're going to have, I think, a tournament or whatever the event is for the kit that's out right now. Kris, you might be able to help with that one.
There is Aces High, and the droids you're looking for are the current kits, I believe.
I think it's the Aces High one. It's like Mandalorian themed.
Cool.
I'm
I
not
don't
sure
know.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, they're going to have that in 2 weeks, but they're going to play extended dogfight instead of do missions. So I may not do it because I don't really feel like playing dogfighty. But anyway, I went to the game shop today and I bought another 40K Space Marines vehicle, and then I bought the Razor Crest.
Which 40K vehicle did you get?
I'd have to go out in the living room and grab it. It's just one of the tank-like vehicles.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
there's a lot of tanks in Space Marines. That's all I'm saying.
Well, and I need to get more because it seems to be that's where a lot of their army points go into are vehicles.
Yeah, usually for transport.
Yep. So that was pretty much my 2 weeks of gaming of some sort. And then I played Project Zomboid on Wednesday with my Wednesday game group. And um, so that's pretty much it. But it was, it's a lot of fun. We'll just put it that way. So I'm excited. I got to play a little bit of Galaga today. I played a little bit of Gauntlet today.
Good.
And what else did I play? I played one other game too. I don't remember, but just trying it out, making sure it all works because I gotta figure out getting power to them now. So that's the
Well,
next step in all of it.
the one thing I think is kind of cool is those things have Wi-Fi. Those arcade one-ups have stand-ups have Wi-Fi. You can get on leaderboards. You can play against your friends online. Like there's all kinds of neat stuff that was never even imagined before. Whenever those games were originally
Yeah,
coming.
And I think like when Golden Tee and those types of games came out, that's when the Wi-Fi or that internet connection
Right,
in
where you
in
just sort of like
playing,
optional numbers.
yeah, playing against a worldwide or whatever it was leaderboard. Um, I think that's when that all that started. So,
I get
but
what
now,
I get what Arcade One's One Up's doing. Like, there's a big part of me. It's like, can't I just buy like a blank chassis and just load it with whatever the hell I want on it? I'm sure that there's probably some licensing
there,
issues.
there, you can actually you can buy an arcade machine, but then there is the issue with licensing and all that. All the arcade one up stuff seems to be licensed, so
Oh yeah, absolutely.
so I would
Doesn't
hope that I would hope that that would be the case with that, of doing it or it being legal, completely legal. I know that I was looking today for other companies that do the same thing, and there are a lot out there that do it, but they either have really off-branding games or they have only console style games.
right.
And I'm not totally looking for that type of stuff.
Like legitimately, I would love at some point in time to have one cabinet in my house, but I would have it being driven off a Raspberry Pi that I could play all of the video games on it, as opposed to like having 13 cabinets to do it. I just have one that does all of them.
Right.
But
Okay.
that's
That's pretty much mine there, Ed.
cool.
You said
Kris,
you had X-Wing to close out.
he did.
Well,
Or
yeah,
was
yeah,
that
I
was
did.
that was that buying the Razor Crest? Yeah.
Buying the Razor Crest and looking at building a list if I decide to go play in the tournament next week.
That'll be
So
fine. The what was it? The Concordia face-off.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, the Concordia. Yeah.
Yeah, that isn't a kit. I think it's not a AMG kit. I think it's um a like community built thing.
That
Okay.
works too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure what it is, but that's what they're doing. So
Yeah. Yep.
All right, Kris, what have you been doing lately? We'll save one thing for the end.
I've worked a lot. I think I was saying to you guys I did like 45 hours this week on top of parenting and all of the other stuff. So it's been tiring. Um
I can
I
imagine.
think I think I said about I painted my what? Did I show that on the last show? I can't remember.
I don't remember seeing
Yeah.
that. So that means that I didn't see it. That
It's on
doesn't mean
my
you didn't show it. It means I didn't see it.
Instagram. I'll throw it up in the podcast crap. But I painted
I may have
my
fallen behind on Instagram and all the other fun stuff this past week.
how very dare you.
I was doing a work function in Inner Harbor for 3 days.
It's all
Great,
right.
great
I
trip.
think
Had a fun time, but
yeah, where we go. Copy a link address. I think that's right. That'll work, maybe. See if this works. Podcast crap. There we go. Maybe.
ooh,
And then
nice job.
yeah, I like it. It's good. It's from Shapeways, the actual 3D printed model. So it's the exact same size as the FFG one or AMG one. But it comes as obviously raw resin, and then you just paint it up. So it's open to the atmosphere or lack of atmosphere. And then it's got the ball turrets on the side as well. So
Yeah, I like that.
then I hadn't painted anything new this week, but I did manage to pick up we want a light box for the store. So I was like, well, if I use my old white box for the store, I could get a new one. So then I was testing that out. So this is from an old model, but I think if this is a better quality paste, it's not. Damn it.
Very nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I
What game is
think
that for?
that's for Anima Tactics. I painted that a long time ago. So like trying to do non-metallic metals and
Yeah, very nice.
But yeah, it was mainly testing out the light box for background and stuff, and which one I prefer compared to the background for that or a background for that model. Which one gives you better pictures? I should probably do the same model in both to do a real comparison. But
So I genuinely like. I kind of like the other one better. Not the other model. I like
yes,
that better.
yeah. I think this. So the lat is my old one, and the Anima Tactics weird like fae
Thing.
person is in the new light box. So yeah, I think I'll keep the new light box, and then the old one can go to the store. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I like it a lot. That's cool.
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of models like that, and I've kept around to paint. I'm never going to play Anima Tactics. I've got all of the rule books. Well, I've got a rule book for it. I've got a bunch of models. I've got all of the rule books for a role playing game, but it's never going to get played. So whatever. So yeah, but you can see behind. Oh no, I think I've had the camera frozen all of this time, so people can't see us moving. Yeah, if you look behind me, like there is the new white box, that black box over there. So that is the picture, and but other than that, the table is basically clear. I built my new. I say new. I got the Bad Batch Lego. I
Ooh.
got it on release, so I've had it for nearly a year and hadn't finished building the shuttle. But that's over on my shelf in the corner. So I built some Lego. Didn't really get to play any X-Wing last week or this week because I was busy at work. I actually had work that needed doing. So, oh no, I did play. I tried to block the game out, so I ran my Jedi list. This is not our game, Ed. This is a different one.
That
And I,
bullshit list.
I, I, I went and claimed the central objective with Mace. And I was like, oh, it's safe. That's fine. I'll do my Jedi cheating boost, and we were playing Assault on the Satellite Array. So I was in range to claim a central one, and I thought maybe I can catch one of the TIE FOs at range 3 in bullseye if I do a bank boost. So I'll take the focus action because it was pretty close. And I'm safe anyway. Nothing can get me. But then Von Reg did a 5 straight barrel roll into a boost and caught Mace at range 3. And I think I was at range 3 from one of his bombers, but he had no like ordnance or anything to fire at me. So he rolled 5 red dice, and Mace died. I was like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. That's a shame.
It can happen.
It was interesting. I was like, oh, I mean, I didn't need to do any of this. I could have been alive now. But Matt showed the error of my ways. And I tried to put up a fight with the rest of my other 3 ships, but I just felt like I was behind the curve, and so he got like 4 points immediately, claimed 2 objectives. I think it was like 7-1 at the end of round 1. I was like, oh, okay. Maybe that was a turn 0 mistake. Well, a turn 1 mistake. But yeah, for some reason I just didn't see the barrel roll boost from Von Reg getting to me. And then when it did, I was like, it's fine. It's naked dice anyway. He rolled like hit and 2 crits. I blanked out, and then he got the last hit through with a throwaway 2 dice shot, and I'm like, well.
Oops.
Yeah, it was. Mistakes were made. No, I mean, it was still good. I got to play with my painted art, and I got to roll dice, and I I learned to be more respectful and not necessarily. If I am going to charge for middle, it probably needs to be Luminara who does that, or else I should make Mace a 7B and Luminara the just a normal Delta 7. But I'm back and forth on how I want to run the list and if I'm going to change, because I could drop Shakti to, or I mean, the 7B's probably overkill, and that frees up a bunch of points. So I could do Contrail in a second, and I could change Luminara into Contrail and Ahsoka with Chopper, or I could change Shakti into Contrail and I don't know, something else like Barris with a missile. So yeah, there's a bunch of net listing upgrades I could do, but I've been really enjoying flying the 4 ships and it being challenging. So
Yeah,
that's fine. And then
it
we
did
we
pretty
played,
well.
so you know I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you talk about your
Oh,
2 games of X-Wing.
so I needed to commit to learning 2.5 because legitimately, having played 2 games, it does feel quite a bit different from previous editions of X-Wing. So the first game that we set up, I feel like was we were going to be playing D&D, and D&D kind of got canceled
Yeah,
due to circumstances beyond anyone's control.
yeah,
So we are like, well, I've already slotted this time out. So Alan stepped up to the plate and was like, here, I'll take you to the Mad Ed. And I ran my TIE Swarm. I can actually pull up a list and talk about it. Look at that.
yeah,
So Kris and I kind of worked on this list. Mostly the idea behind my list, behind doing this list, was my thought process was I was going to have 4 TIE fighters kind of stick together as a block.
Well, this was not the list you played against Alan. You played pure TIE Swarm against Alan.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the
Sorry.
list I'm talking
Sorry,
about.
I'm jumping the gun. Sorry.
You are jumping the gun. So my thought process was to keep 4 TIE fighters together. That was going to be so real quick, the list. Howl Runner is running elusive with a hull upgrade. I did Iden with elusive, auto blasters, and discipline. Gideon with discipline and ruthless. Delmico with elusive and discipline. And then I had Wampa, elusive, disciplined, and then Mauler with discipline and ruthless. So the idea, of course, is that Hal, Iden, Gideon, and Delmico were kind of going to fly in a block and just try to take those center objectives and just run NASCAR in the middle and just keep claiming objectives all during the better part of the game. And then have Wampa and Mauler kind of floating out there, maybe scooting around and grabbing objectives on the other side of the board, kind of thing. That was the game plan. The way that the whole thing is so fascinating, the way that the setup is now, because there's a turn 0 before the turn 0, which is the actual, there's a game within the game of setting up those objectives and where you intend to put them, because it legitimately dictates where the rocks are going to go. um, because you have the objective in the center, can't really do much about that, and then you're trying to place objectives. So in the early game, you can go out and snag a couple because it isn't an objective based game for the most part. So I had 3 kind of in we long story short, we ended up with 3 pretty much in the middle and a whole bunch of rocks doing an L around them. So we had 3 in the center that were pretty much in open territory, and then there were these other 2 objectives where all the rocks. And my game plan was to have my 4 TIE fighters just drive circles around those 3 objectives and just stay there out in the open, making turns the whole way through, trying to draw Alan's 5 A-Wings into the center so that I could take shots and take them off the board. And then I had Mauler and I had Wampa kind of go out around the edges, and like their whole main goal was to go out and grab a couple of objectives on Alan's side of the board. That was the game plan. And for 2 turns, I stuck to that game plan. And then on turn 2, I get fortuitous. I got one of his A-Wings all the way down to 1 hull. And first edition brained Ed kicks in and says, if I hard turn my entire center squad, I can probably take that A-Wing out and get some points for that. And that's what I did. And that's where I lost the game. Because then I got into playing Alan's game of trying, keep in mind the sentence that I just said out loud, which was, my 4 TIE fighters are going to chase down this 1 A-Wing to get the points off the board for that. It's not going to happen. They're faster, they're more maneuverable. But that was my plan. Well, that was what the
Yeah.
plan turned into. And what he did, he snuck one of his A-Wings in behind me and did my plan, which was just spin on those 3 objectives. So I'll end. I mean, there were only 3 ships taken off the board of that one. I did eventually kill the A-Wing that I went after, but it cost me the game legitimately. And then he ended up taking out. I think he took Wampa and Mauler out. I think were the other 2 that he took out. So all in all, the game ran for 5 turns. 3 ships were taken off the board, and by the end of the game, he beat me by the end of the 5th turn.
Yeah, it wouldn't have raced to 20.
Yeah, he ran the race to 20. And what he was doing the right things. He was taking his A-Wing and parking them between 2 objectives and taking those 2 points for those objectives every single turn. And we did the math at the end of the game. I think it finished at like 20 to 9, 20 to something. It was a low. I think it was in the single digits. He got 14 of his 20 points just off of objectives.
Yeah.
So that taught me a lesson. Like, okay, first of all, I knew what my mistake was. I knew that I deviated from. If I'd have stayed with my original plan, I don't know how much it would have affected the game, honestly. But I think if I'd at least kept with the primary plan that I had, instead of turning in to take out an A-Wing, I just proceeded on course and claimed objectives. I would have been drawing his A-Wings in, so I can at least take some shots at him and maybe taking those out.
Yeah.
So we were supposed to go down to game. So good. Thanks to Alan. Fantastic game. A lot of good sport. Yeah, he helped us. He taught us quite a few things about how they're doing 2.5 now, how they're doing the scoring, how the scoring sheets works, how all the new stuff works in TTS for it. So that was
fun. He gave us a bunch of things I could just save, so that I have them in my save files, and then just chose to not use them anyway. Right. It was fine.
It was nice. So then we're recording this show on a Saturday. We were supposed to record on Thursday. And again, circumstances beyond our control, we weren't able to do so. Kris and I were free. We said, well, we blocked out the time. Why the hell not play a game? So I played another game against Kris. And Kris brings his Jedi list. I don't know that I necessarily blame the list. But good God, is it frustrating to be like, yeah, every single thing's in here is doing multiple actions, multiple this, multiple that. Okay, my system phase takes longer than my planning phase. Like, wait, what is going on? There's so much going on.
The end phase is the longest phase of the game for me.
It is. It absolutely is. So I went in with a very different list and a very different mentality. I went in, and let me pull that list up just so I can absolutely cover the exact same stuff. We're going to load that squad. It's Vader time. So, of course, I wanted to run Vader because I saw a little bit of what the Force is like. And I'm like, well, from the Imperial side, what are my choices? Well, obviously, I'm going to take Vader. 10 points for the Defender. Vader seems a bit much for me. I'm not willing to commit that many points to a single ship. So I went down to the TIE Advance X1. He's running Brilliant Evasion and Malice, Proton Rockets, and Afterburners. And then I wanted my thought process of what I should have done in the first game. I ran 2 Alpha Squadron Pilot Interceptors with Discipline on them and the sensitive controls. And their whole purpose was to just go out and catch those peripheral objectives and just, oh, by the way, if something goes out, if you have another ship that does the same thing, mine's a 3 attack die ship, and I moved before you. Maybe I can block you and still take you out in the same process. That was my thought process with it. And then I had 6 points left, and I'm like, well, let's go a little bit fluffy. We're going to put Mauler and Scourge in there because it kind of were, Vader's wingman, and they're both are TIE fighters that can get extra attack dice, so it is possible that every ship in the list has a potential for 3 attack dice to start, and that was kind of the idea. Having the 2 alphas in there for their sole purpose was to go out and collect objectives. That's all they were there for. And then Mauler and Scourge were supposed to hang out with Vader, and between the 3 of them, they were supposed to take some things. Now, I, for the most part, feel like I stuck to my game plan on this one. Again, had a very fortuitous first turn, second turn. I think it was the first turn where I got one of Kris's ships all the way down to a single hull.
So this time I learned, and I sent Luminara into the middle with her beefy 3 shields and 4 hull because she's got a hull upgrade.
Yeah, otherwise it would have died in that. But anyway, so unfortunately, I feel like on the first game I played first edition when I was supposed to be playing 2.5. On this game, I felt like I was playing 2.5 and I should have been playing first edition. Because I was trying to focus on collecting objectives, and Kris was just.
I disagree. So the misunderstanding on sensitive controls cost you heavily.
Oh yeah. That's true. That's true. So because what I thought
I
it did
always was I outscored you every round on objectives. So it started off 3-2, and then you got unlucky in that because we played Scramble the transmission.
Mhm.
So you got unlucky in that you only turned off my satellite, you didn't claim it. Whereas I claimed yours back.
Yep.
So I was still scoring 3, you were only scoring 1 in the second round. And then the turn after that, you didn't claim it. You ignored the
Turned it
one that you
off.
turned off, and then you went a different way to what I thought you were going to do to chase ships again, to not contest objectives. So I think you did the same thing again. But
I
that's
may have. In hindsight, you might be right because basically I had one of my alphas that missed the claiming of one objective, but was in a range that it could have gone and done another. When he says I misunderstood the understands the sensitive controls, because what it says you can do a boost or a barrel roll in the action in the systems phase and take a stress, and then obviously you can do a blue maneuver to clear that. I thought that was that was the ship's action. It didn't realize and didn't register with me that taking the boost or barrel roll in the system phase did not mean that that was my ship's action.
Yeah, you
It,
were in advanced sensors mode where it doesn't let you do
right,
any more actions, which
exactly. So,
it
and I
made a
had
lot
said it
more
like,
sense the words you were using now. Whereas
well,
in
because I said it a couple of times. He's like, because Kris is fantastic in going through the phases of the game. He's like, in the system phase, do you want to do any of your alphas pre-game movements? And I'm like, no, I need to save my actions. And in my mind, that meant I need to save my actions because I want to boost onto that objective or I want to claim that objective. What he registered is like, oh, I'm going to be doing a red maneuver, so I want to kind of save it. Or what point
yeah,
being,
didn't
if
want
I
to be
had
stressed, but yeah.
right,
Yeah.
point being, if I had played it the way that I was supposed to do it, um, I would have been able to do those pre-games, do blues, and then also claim objectives. Does that
Yeah.
change things a ton? Probably
I
not.
think it does because like the points differential is what won me the game. Like I
Yes,
was
agreed.
me scoring 3 to year 1, 4 to year 1. If I'm scoring like only 2 to year 1, so I'm only getting 1 point on you rather than gaining 3 points on you. Like the gap's not as big, and yeah, obviously the game ended at like 30 odd points because I one rounded Vader, Mauler, and an Alpha.
Correct.
So like yes,
And
the outcome of the game probably doesn't change, but the
what killed
scoreline up to that point is a lot closer.
what killed me on that one is that when we ended turn 4, I was thinking to myself, one of the things that I don't know, embarrassed is probably the right word for it. That the game only lasted 5 turns. That I didn't perform well enough to have the game go more than 5 turns before Alan had beaten me. And we get to the end of turn 4, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna get past turn 5 with Kris. And then he aces Vader, aces the Alpha, aces the other like legitimately when the game was already over before dice started getting rolled because he had claimed 4 objectives to my 1. He was sitting on 16 points. He was already at 20. I mean, if nothing
Yeah.
happened, if he elected to do nothing, the game was over. But of course, we played it out and rolled some dice to see what would happen. And he ended up with 31 points at the end because he's just blowing points off the board left and right. It was awful.
Like the positioning to get the shot. So I got a range 1 bullseye shot from Mace onto
With
Vader
Mace was a great
with
move.
calibrated. So that was 3 dice plus a focus result, and I had the lat reroll on that as well.
Yep.
And then I had Shakti behind Mauler. I think it was one of the I5 ties.
That was the other thing I
Yeah.
kept stupidly doing was I kept remembering that, oh, if you bump me, you can't shoot me. No, this is 2-5. You absolutely can. So legitimately, not once but twice, I made the exact same mistake where I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to block you with Mauler or block you with Wampa, and then that's one less ship I have to worry about shooting me. Again, first edition thought processes,
Yeah.
even second edition, coming into my head going, if you're bumping me, you're not shooting me. Yeah, you are.
It's just like, yeah, I Auto Blaster marksmanship R7A7 did work
It did.
on Shakti, just like And I think the first auto blaster shot I did, I rolled 2 natural crits anyway. Like it was just
Yeah, about that. Hey, I rolled 3 crits with Vader
yeah.
right into shields.
Yeah, you took Luminara's shields off of Vader, and it was all
I did.
crits. But
It was all crits. It was pretty to see.
like, yeah, and that's just the thing about Jedi and why they're so good. It's like you did legitimately 6 damage to Luminara through all of her defenses, through all of her force, got her down to 1 hull, and then I just 5 straight Jedi boost, and then repair my loose stabilizer was the crit I was carrying because I had to do it straight. But there's no way you're getting a shot at me because you have to K-turn if you want to shoot me, and I've just done a 7 forwards.
Right. And I'm never going to catch him.
Yeah.
So overall, for me, it was a lesson learning in both of the games. I don't think that I just need to change some of my mentalities. I think a lot of it is the fact that I didn't necessarily read how cards necessarily work. That's not my fault. But even the game, just functionally how the game works, it's so very different. When you're trying, like a game can get out of hand really, really quickly if you're not paying attention to those objectives. So I remember we had conversations when we were talking about these, like, well, there's just going to be some games that just turns in, like, people are just going to ignore the objectives. I don't know how you can.
It's very. I understand why people don't like it and why people are saying that the game ends not feeling resolved. Like our game, had I not killed any ships, our game, like you said, our game ended, and I think it ends with
no ships off the.
Would it have been no? No, I think I killed the Alpha the turn before with Luminara. No, was it all? Did all of it? Yeah, so it would have been
all on one turn. So you are correct. If the game would have ended and we hadn't rolled dice, there wouldn't have been a ship taken off the board, and the game would have been over.
And it's like people that this is touching on main topic talk now rather than flight deck talk, but I think
that's okay. I mean, that is aside from the fact that all right. I'm going to interject one thing, and then we'll move into this. I did just mention I was in National Harbor for an event through work. It was really, really nice. It was the first event that I've been able, conference that I was able to attend since COVID kicked in. So it was really nice to be able to get out and see some other people. While I was there, they had this little, every time for those of you that go into like business trips like this, there's always these vendors that sell crap. They sell some type of service that they're trying to make money off of you while they're sitting there. And they have to find ways to pull you into their booths to do it. So one of the vendors was giving away a whole bunch of stuff. They were giving away a 50-inch 4K TV, blah, 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 a whole bunch of other things. And one of the other things they were giving away was a brand new 128 gig Oculus Quest 2. And I scanned the little QR code and said, oh, hell, why not? What's the worst that could happen? Well, I ended up winning. And I spent 2 hours today playing Beat Saber. And holy crap, I think my shoulder's a little sore at the end of it. So, yeah, beyond all that, that's what I did. Let's get on to main topic area.
It was good. I'm like looking forward to messing around with requests properly. I think it'll be good.
Wait. Squadrons was the first thing I said to Kris. Like, so I can play Squadrons in the Quest, right?
Yeah. But so yeah, as I was saying, I think we're talking about scoring. Right, just getting my mindset ready. Sorry. So yeah, I think the game would have ended, and it might like no ship off the board. Like Luminara's on 1 hull. I think you'd done you'd got decent damage on Trollat because I'd pulled that out as well. I think that was on 2 or 3 hits left, but like easily one roundable by like most of the ships on there. And I think you'd splash damage on like at least got the shield off Mace as well. At least
it was one of those things. It was like a range 3 shot, and you like blanked out completely. And I'm like, woohoo! I got a damage through! Yay!
Yeah. And like I don't. To me, the game's resolved because one of us got to 20 points, and that's the goal of the game.
Right.
And I don't know if it's because I've played more different games, so like I'm happy enough to play a mission, but I kind of understand if that's not what you're used to. That can feel we only played 5 turns, the game ended, and no shits had died. But
The objective of the game is not to destroy ships.
Yeah, and like, as I think it shows, like, there was no chance that you would go, like, we could have played to 30 points, the game still ended the same turn.
Right.
Like, the game was resolved. If we were playing the previous, like, if we were playing just the second edition, like, that game's still over. You just can't end until the timer runs out.
Right. If it makes you
So
feel any better, I did not have that feeling that the game was unresolved. But again, that
yeah,
comes from a history of playing other games that are objective based and scoring based, where it's entirely possible that 3/4 of your forces on the table are still there and you still lose. I've also played games where 3/4 of your forces on the table are off the board because they've been destroyed, and you still win because the game is an objective game. It's not a game
yeah.
of
Like, I've
hurtling
had
your opponent.
games where not I've played games, not I've had games. That sense, I'm still talking about X-Wing, but I've played games where I think Infinity is a good example. You can table your opponent and still lose.
Right, because that was their objective.
Well, their objective is to score. Like, both of your objectives is to score points doing the mission, not to kill each other. You kill each other to deny them doing the objectives. If they've already got the points and you've not got your points yet, if you kill them, like,
It
you
doesn't
have
help.
like, the game doesn't actually end. You still have to be able to, like, okay, so they sit and watch if you can move to what you've got to do and pass the test to get there, kind of thing. Or like, you try not kill them, you leave them with one model so that you can do the mission. But
The last game that I played in the 40K League, I won that game by 4 points. And I had on the table 4 or 5 Necron Warriors sitting on one objective, and I had my Necron Overlord sitting on another.
yeah,
And that was it. I had a
yeah,
grand total of 5 models total left on the board of a grand, like, to put that in context for those that don't know what my 1,000-point Necron list is. There's about like 60 models in that set. I was down to 5 of those 60. My
yeah,
opponent had done a really good job of blasting all of my models off the board, and I still ended up winning because I played the mission.
yeah. And I think the good thing about X-Wing now and the missions is that the score's in your face. You cannot not understand what's happening. You might not realize why you're losing or what you like, the choices you've made that have gone wrong. But like, you saw, like, it was 3-2 after turn 1.
Yeah.
Then it was it was 7-3 after turn 2.
Yes.
Then
And
it
believe
was,
me, like if you just watch just that, you
yeah,
can see how
then
the game
it's
was won.
11-4
Mm-hmm.
in turn 3. And still nothing's died, and it's like uh in turn 3 was where you lost that game by not stopping me gaining 3 point, like, because it's a race to 20. If I'm getting 4 points a turn, I win in 5 turns.
Which is exactly what happened.
Yeah, and it's hard because list building really matters now. If you you can't play this game flying 4 B-wings. Like, you can't fly B, like, I think a list can carry like 1 or 2 B-wing style ships or Y-wing style ships, but if you cannot get around the table, and I think
And
that's
quickly.
yeah. And I think that's why I can get away with flying. And I'm not saying that this is a good, like,
I know that's
in the
so we
nicest possible way. Like, the list didn't beat Ed. Ed beat Ed.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
and
what I
I'm
mean?
okay with
Yeah.
that.
But like, I enjoy flying it. I don't think it's great. It's all I4. It's good fun. It's got pilots that I want to use. It's got a bunch of upgrades. It's very intricate and complex, and there's a lot of triggers to remember. And I enjoy when all of it comes together. It feels great to just laugh at your opponent as you just, okay, so this person's going to take all crits and die, and then that, like, That last turn
don't-
felt awesome for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, you don't even need to pick up the dice. You don't get to cancel those out. Those are just there.
Yeah,
Like, that kind of sucks.
yeah. I agree, and they let me do it, so I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yep.
But like, what? Okay, Mace is range 1 with you in bullseye, so he's gonna fire and he's gonna spend his focus, and then Obi-Wan's gonna spend a 4 so he can keep his focus token. All right. Oh, what's that? You wanted to shoot Mace, so he has to spend his token defensively. Oh, he did. Obi-Wan said he can keep it though. It's all right.
Yeah, it's all right.
No.
No big deal.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
No big deal.
All right. And all of those end phase triggers from Hawk and Shakti and Agile Gunner and
yeah, we had a post game conversation where Kris is like, "Yeah, this isn't even a good Republic list," and I'm like, "Are you really?" He's like, "Yeah, no. Like, if you were to play like the quote unquote competitive Republic list, like I should be replacing this ship and this ship because they're not necessarily the most ideal builds for this list." And I'm like, ugh. Now, granted, I'm obviously not the most competitively minded player currently in X-Wing. It seemed pretty tough from where I was sitting.
The problem with it is that it's still a Republic. Like I still get I still get to boost before my action step. So we were playing Scramble, so I get to
point to that.
Yeah, I get to boost and still have an action left to do it. Or I can boost in the system phase, or Hawk can make me boost in the end phase. Like my lat boosted in the end phase in turn 1 to give me a better angle to be where I want it. So
the next objective.
Yeah, so oh no, I've got a strain now. The cost of this ability. Oh, I have to stress that because I thought it was a stress so long, and then Matt, who beat me last week, was like, "What are you talking about? It's a strain, Kris. Don't be an idiot." What? Oh, it does say strain. You're right. Yeah.
Oops.
Okay, so his abilities, Hawk's ability, is better than I thought it was. Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So that having been said, I came away from that second game going, okay, maybe Empire isn't the right faction for me right now. As I'm trying to learn the game, as I'm trying to go out and figure this whole thing out about going out and grabbing objectives, Empire just doesn't have the hit points to sit down and figure that kind of stuff out mid-game. They just don't. One bad dice roll, or in my case, a couple of bad dice rolls, and boom, 2/3 of your list are off the board. So I need something with a little bit more tankability, a little bit more survivability that can also still go out and play a solid game. So Kris and I were going to work on a Rebels list.
Yeah.
And see which direction we were going to go. And that's kind of what we're going to cover over here. And we're going to kind of talk about why we're taking what we're taking and what we're going to be doing. Sean, do you have anything you want to add? I feel like you've been quiet for a bit. I don't want to exclude you.
No, I would agree with that. I mean, the Force is just cheating, so we'll just start right there, and we'll move on from that.
And I even said in our group chat, all kidding aside, or the first joke I made was they should just ban Force users. But all kidding aside, legitimately, I thought the whole purpose between second edition was the whole multi-action stacking thing was supposed to go away.
It did. It's right, unless you're a Jedi, and then it's okay.
And that's kind of what my point is.
Do you know how long Obi-Wan trained to use that Force to tell you to go fuck yourself?
And I totally get it, and I understand it from a fluff perspective. What I was saying to Kris, and again, half joking, I could see a time coming where at least there's a movement of, well, maybe just one Force user per list, because having that many really had a feel that
I think I mentioned in our chat.
Force, you can't keep up.
So what I think I would like to see, and I'm not sure about this because I've not gone through every card and seen how much it impacts and how much I ratter. So maybe this is my X-Wing 3.0 wish listing. But I wish that the Force didn't do anything.
Aside from the dice modification?
No. It does nothing. I buy a pilot who has Force charges, and they do not do anything. Then I have an ability on the pilot that says you can spend a Force charge to do this.
Yeah.
Or I can buy a force upgrade that says I can spend a force charge to do this. So your force charges lose their default ability, so they're no longer calculate tokens.
Yep.
They do not do that anymore. You can only use them to do something that's written on a card. Because I'm so tired of like not reading the words that are on the cards for the Jedi. Or like taking any of the Imperial crew and like curring what the word says on them. Like I'll take Grand Inquisitor and Seventh Sister as crew, but I'm not actually going to use them for the words on the card. Like, well, I don't care what it says. I just want the force point. Well,
Yeah,
Maul lets me take a dark side upgrade. Well, I can't take a force upgrade anyway because I'm flying Boba Fett. I just wanted his force point. It's all right.
that's the only reason why he's there.
Yeah, and I remember what was it, the meme tournament at, was it Celebration or whatever, when X-Wing second edition first launched and they had, it wasn't Worlds, but it was a Coruscant Invitational, I think it was called.
Yeah, they'd invited a bunch of people to play.
Yeah, or however it worked. I remember one of the guys flew an arc with Luke Skywalker gunner when it was still like 17, 20 points, but it doesn't, like, the arc doesn't have a turret. He just wanted a force point and to meme on people that he could take Luke Skywalker gunner. I'm like, yeah, the force point is that good. So I would like to see a world where that didn't exist. But whilst it does exist, I'm going to fly Republic and enjoy myself, you know? I think everybody should. They just let you.
I agree. I agree. All right, so more
Yeah.
on to the topic. So we're going to build a beginner's 2.5 list. A list that might not necessarily have all the tricks of the trade, but is going to allow you to go out, claim objectives, have some levels of survivability, have some oomph behind it too, maybe a few tricks, that kind of.
So I kind of jumped ahead and I have a list I think you'll like and that I like and I think I'm going to use just to see if I can actually make it work. Because I want to see if I can play a not fast, not agile rebel list that is just there to punch you in the face, kill 2 ships, and then win on objectives because you don't want to fight me anymore. So I have a 4-ship rebel list, 3
Okay.
X-Wings, and a Z95.
Ooh,
Yeah.
already kind of in my wheelhouse. I like it.
So we have Wedge Antilles in the X-Wing
Always like Wedge.
with outmaneuver, proton torpedoes, and an R4 astromech. So
Outmaneuver, proton torpedoes.
yeah.
And an R4 Ash.
Yeah. So
Got
Wedge's job is to be, well, wherever I am, you now have to be facing me, or else you're at -2 agility, and I'm going to fire a torpedo at you. So if you want to turn, if where Alan, what Alan was doing to you, where it was circling the objective, you can't do that because the second you turn out to keep going around the same objective, you're now facing away from Wedge. He fires a torpedo at you, and you're at -2 agility.
Good luck.
So you better hope that this isn't double modded. Oh, and to make sure that it's double modded, obviously, we have Aaron Kraken. So he's my Z95. He's got selfless because I'd rather he take crits than anybody else. And a plasma torpedo. So he's an initiative 5. Yeah, an initiative 5 Z95. And the 3 dice plasma is actually an upgrade from his 2 dice primary. And his ability will still trigger off firing the torpedo. So he can't.
Which torpedo? I missed that.
The plasma torpedo.
Gotcha.
So it's a 3 dice attack, 2 charge, range 2 to 3 torpedo attack. And during the neutralize result step, crits are cancelled before hits. So you're unlikely to crit people. But after you've determined it hits, you burn a shield off them. So as long as you hit, you're also doing an extra shield. And it's high enough initiative that it probably does. Then he gets
real quick. What are your other 2 points in on him?
Selfless.
Yeah,
because I want him to pull crits off other people. After Kraken, I've got Thane Kyrell for another I5 X-Wing.
Ooh.
This guy he's got a small loadout, but he's only a 4-ship cost, so good. He's got an ion torpedo. Because I was back and forth on whether to take plasma or ion, and ion gives you the 4 dice attack, which can help against some of the higher agility ships or Jedis, and obviously ionizing them is good because you get a second round of shooting at them because you know where they're going to be.
Exactly where they're going to be.
Yeah. Then he's got hopeful for his talent, because I doubt you're going to want to kill Thane when there's a 6-point wedge, an easy to kill Z95 that's got selfless, so it's soaking damage from other people anyway. So other ships should die to trigger hopeful. And then his droid is Chopper. So if I'm in a game where I don't feel like I need to spend the ions, I just spend charges off the ion torpedo to regen shields with Chopper. And it doesn't give me a disarm token or anything. Right. As an action, I spend 1 non-recurring charge from another equipped upgrade, and I recover a shield. It seems good. I'll shoot you with unmodded dice. Oh wait, it would be modded because Kraken would give me a mod. I remember now. So and you're not gonna kill Thane first, or if you do, I'm happy. You know what I mean? It's one of those I don't care which one you shoot at. It's all good for me. And then my last ship is Luke Skywalker in the X-Wing.
Ooh, I do like this list.
So another I5, so it's 1 I6 and 3 I5s. Luke has got Afterburners, Outmaneuver, Proton Torpedo, R3 Astromech, and Instinctive Aim.
Okay, that's a lot of...
It's a lot of upgrades because he's got 28 loadout value.
All right, can you run that past me one more time? So I've got Afterburners, Instinctive Aim, and then I lost you after that.
Outmaneuver, because he's got a talent slot as well as a force slot.
That was the one that I...
Yeah, Proton Torpedoes, and an R3 Astromech.
Whew, that's a lot of points.
So we have 2 pilots with Proton Torpedoes at high initiative. If Luke is in a position where the R3s didn't give him the 2 locks he needed to shoot someone, he can still spend a force and use Instinctive Aim to just blind fire that torpedo. Afterburners, so you don't have to close the S-foils. Obviously, if you plan on firing the torpedo, you can keep the foils closed and not use your afterburner charges. So, there's arguments to be made that you don't need the afterburners, but I've got 28 points, man. Whatever.
Yeah, like what else am I going to spend them on at that point?
Yeah, outmaneuver to take advantage of the fact that they have to face Wedge, but now they also have to face Luke. So
put them on opposite directions. Yeah. It's not really possible to do both.
Yeah, and if they do, they're splitting up, and obviously people tend to split up more anyway. But torpedoes are good because they've got a long range. So, just because the ship that's at range 1 is facing you, you can always shoot the one that's at range 3 that isn't. It's okay. And yeah, I think you just come in and try and alpha 1 or 2 ships off the table, turn 1 and 2, and then have enough hull left that you can bully people after that. Uh, Wedge is going to be hard to use because he's never going to get the Wedge won't get the double modded shot.
No, as much as you'd
because
want
you don't want you want to take the target lock, and then you just, if you don't roll all hits, you just spend the lock anyway. It doesn't matter because you're hopeful that they're rolling at most 1 agility dice.
Right.
So yeah, because Wedge is just good.
I do like this.
But you just pump damage into something. You should do I would be surprised if you weren't doing 6 to 8 damage around, regardless of what you're shooting at.
No, I do like this. It's fairly basic, fairly simple to roll through. I see all of the points here. There's enough. I do like the double torpedoes in the list. I do like that.
Everyone's got a torpedo head.
Well, I see that. I mean,
Yeah.
you're
talking about the protons, obviously.
The double proton. Yeah, the double protons is probably what I should be more focused on.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different ways of approaching it. Obviously, if something's slippery, you can either try and kill it with Wedge, or you can try and ion it with Vane. You can use Kraken Shot to make Vane Shot double modded. There's a lot of different things you can do to kind of just mess around and position, but you've got to group 3 of the objectives close together so that the other 2 are on the wider side, and you have to have the bulk of your force coming across those 3 objectives so you can control that space, because you don't want to give up too many points too early. But I think this is a kind of list that this is where you wait to cover off the center objective. Like you 3 straight or 4, you 3 straight or 3 bank to put your firing arcs over the center and just kill whatever they send to take it, because they will.
Whatever comes in the middle just falls into that kill box.
Yeah. And then, providing you actually kill it, they will have taken more points than you, but you'll have taken a ship off a board and got that set of points. So
hopefully that makes up for it.
Yeah. But again, this is the equivalent of an early game, like strategy in League of Legends, or your red. This is your red deck in Magic.
Yep.
You come out swinging, you burn really quick, and if you haven't got enough of a lead in ship count at the start of it and kills, because you need to remove your opponent's ability to fight back against you, because then you can start clawing the objectives away from them as well and snowball. But if you don't do enough in the start, there's nothing you can do. If Wedge and Luke fire both proton torpedo shots and you're still behind on objectives and haven't killed 2 to 3 ships, you just lose.
Yeah, I see that.
This is definitely a list that does just lose if you don't get that lead that you need.
It's a little bit more durable though than I agree. I agree with that evaluation, but it is still pretty durable, and there is a lot of red dice in this list.
Yeah, and I say, if you've not got the torpedoes, Wedge is still an X-wing firing its X-wing primary, removing potentially 2 of your attack dice. He's still gonna do work, but you need to have killed the stuff with the torpedoes to give you the space to do the work.
Right.
Because again, let's use the 4 to 1. Oh, so I think a realistic expectation might be it's fall theory crafting. This is all made up, so don't worry too much about it. I don't want to argue the points too hard here, but they're going to claim 3 objectives. You might get 1 and kill the ship that was on the center. So they send a 2-point ship to a center, so it's 3-3, and you've killed a ship. In the second round, they're probably still going to get 3 objectives. You might not, like, depend on what scenario it is. If it's like picking up a box or something like that, like, you can't get another one, so you're still only going to be scoring 1 a round from your objective. So you have to kill another ship this turn, or else it goes to 6-4.
Right.
And it that differential gap starts getting wider and wider unless you're killing a ship every round, which you only get two to 3 good rounds of shooting. So that's the problem with it. And I'm not trying to downplay it now. I'm just trying to balance it out and let you know. Because I think now that we have this defined win condition, we get to actually talk about these things in a much better way. Because previously, like this style of Alpha Strike list, if it didn't kill everything, it could still lose relatively easily because it's not going to be arc dodging well enough because it doesn't have double reposition, like
Right.
barring Luke's afterburners kind of thing. So, like, yeah, you might play this against the old Imperial Aces list, and you might kill Vader or Whisper, but you're not going to kill 2 of the aces, and then the other 2 that are left are going to be better than you are at being aces, and will eventually grind you down enough to get the points back. Because whilst you're rugged with health, you're not survival. You will still die. It's just the rate at which you die. So that's why I'm talking about the early game, like the to steal League of Legends terminology. This would be like a Sinnoh list because you get to fly in and make yourself feel really good when you kill something early, but then you've shot your load and you've got nothing.
Yep.
Is it the whatever 1/1 token deck's called? I don't know. You know, where you just spam out tokens early in Magic. I don't know the terminology well enough.
They usually call it so it's token spam, or like sometimes you got like the white weenie decks that do that.
Yeah, but like where you've got low cost, low power creatures, but you can get them out quick. So
Yep.
you're filling the field, and like unless they've got a board wipe, and it's not going to do anything. It's that kind of
Yep.
all of your power is in the early game. So you've got turns 1 to 3. If you have not established, I would say a 6.2 ship. If you've not got them down to 3 ships, you need to outnumber them. Once you've lost your torpedoes, if you do not outnumber them and don't have torpedoes, you probably lose.
No, I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. I think that I'm really enjoying this way of thinking about the game now, though, if that makes any sense. Like where I'm putting the power in in my Jedi list, the power isn't actually in the alpha. The power of that Republic list is the theoretical resilience if I fight properly and take the correct actions and don't just throw Mace away or throw Luminara away. And the consistency of being able to output damage. I don't spike, but I'm always getting there's 2 hits, 2 hits, 2 hits, 2 hits,
Yes.
3 hits.
Yeah.
All right. There's 1 crit, but you can't cancel it. I'm always doing something. So like the PowerPoint for that list it is like turns 3, 4, and 5, where I've damaged everything and I can move in to kill something. And I'm mobile, and it's I again, will you keep using magic even though it's your game, not mine? Like that's the blue deck for me. Or maybe blue green, maybe a bit of green in there for the force bullshit and all of the
Yeah.
support stuff. Or maybe blue white is probably a better analogy. But just how that kind of how the game functions now. Because it's a race to 20, not just pushing things together to total destruction. I think you get to use these kind of different tactics and strategies. And this is where I think people's mindset needs to evolve into recognizing where the strength of your list is and how you need to apply that strength. And not only that, if you can apply that strength above your opponent, because if your opponent's better at doing that than you are, then you're not strong there. You have to figure out a second path to victory. So like, if I'm playing this list and at this rebel list, and you've just brought like Y-wings with torpedoes, you've probably got 5 or 6 Y-wings, and I don't have that many, and like you can lock me, like, yeah, I might kill one in the first turn, but then you get to punch me back. If I'm not the guy who's doing the big alpha damage, then I need to play this list differently. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm like I said, I'm seeing all of the little possibilities here. I agree is a very so here's and maybe my experience isn't necessarily conducive to the entire experience I'm going to have as I'm playing the course of the game. Most of the 2 games that I have played were determined pretty much by turn 3.
I think that is not unusual for the current state of the game. I don't mean this to sound insulting to not just Ed, but to everybody who currently plays X-Wing. It's because we're all bad. I just told you about how I was like, oh, I've been flying into a middle and contesting the middle objective with one of my 2 Jedi, and it's been working out fine until it doesn't. Then the game's done. Like literally turn 1, it's over. So like, is that risk worth it? Like, is it better to be the person to threaten taking the middle, but to actually just put the firing axe over the middle and not actually get too close so that you can capitalize on if they take the middle? So you get into the shell game, a bluffing game of, I'm going to deploy my ship that looks like I'm going to bum rush the middle. And then as long as you think that I'm going to bum rush the middle, you'll set up your arcs to cover it. But I'm not actually going to. I'm going to set up my arcs in case you do. And then I've not lost anything because you didn't take the middle.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if I do as long as you don't. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying.
If it's 5 objectives and I get my 2, you get your 2, and no one takes the middle, we're just racing to 18. And that's okay. But it's that kind of thinking where we need as many points as we can because the games end earlier, but then the games will end earlier because you're going all in.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing poker and you go all in the first hand of every tournament, sometimes they're not all gonna fold, and sometimes someone will clean you out in turn 1.
Yep.
Like so I think there's a lot of learning for us all to do. And I include myself in that quite a lot.
Legitimately, I agree. So I'm absolutely the next game that we play, I will take this list, kind of fly it around, see how I feel about it. And again, what I said to Kris at the end of the game is what I need to do is I need to find a list to learn to play this game with. I remember when I first started playing X-Wing way back in the day, I picked a list. Now I picked TIE Swarm, but I picked a list. And I think I took Dallas Parker's list. It was the list that I took, which was how I think there was another named pilot. There was probably Night Beast, and the rest
It
of
was
them were
Night
generic.
Beast, I think.
Yeah, it was 2, and then it was like 2 Obsidians and then 2 academies. And that was it. And I just flew that list like 20, 30 games straight. And by the end of it, I had gotten really, really good at that list. I knew where strengths were. I knew where weaknesses were. I knew how to play the game with that list. I knew how to react.
I mean,
that's what I needed to do.
What I would say, Ed, is I think you should try this list, but I don't think this is a list that we wanted to build for you tonight. I think there's a more beginner-friendly list than this, because there is a lot of room to mess this up horribly and have the same kind of thing happen. So like, if we wanted to make this into a better, I think like a better all-rounder list.
All right, let's go.
Because I think 5 to 6 ships is the safety blanket. So what we'll do,
We're going
did
for
you
bonus material.
did you build this list in Yasby yet?
Yeah, I already built
Okay.
it and saved it.
Okay, cool. So then we're gonna rename it, or like build it again, or however you want to do it. But basically, we're gonna
I just
delete.
picked new squad. That's all I
Yeah.
did.
Okay, so we're gonna delete Kraken. We don't want Kraken because he's a finesse piece that just forces this list to work, and is I5, but he's not necessary for like a normal rebel list. So what would you rather the crux, like the fulcrum of the list be? Do you want it to be Wedge or do you want it to be Luke? Because we're gonna remove the other one as a spoiler.
Yeah, we have to use. Yeah, we have to use that. So, so I struggle with letting Force go out of the list.
Okay, so we'll keep
But
Luke.
hang on,
You like no, it's fine.
Let me finish my thought
Yeah.
process. But I do like what Wedge brings to the table, especially with the
Outmaneuver. Yeah. As a spoiler, I don't think there's a right or wrong option here. It's okay.
I also do like the idea of having the I6 in there.
Yeah.
I'm struggling with letting go of the 2 Force though.
That seems fair. I can get you Force somewhere else if Force is something you want in the list.
Yeah, maybe that's so. All right, so we're gonna go. We're dropping Kraken out of the list.
Yeah.
And for the moment, we'll drop Luke out of the list.
Okay.
So that leaves us with Pain and Wedge.
Yeah.
2 X-Wing.
So what we're gonna do for Thane is we're gonna retool him.
Okay.
Thane is going to become an outmaneuver Thane, and he's going to waste one of his loadout value.
Uh-oh.
And it doesn't matter because now he's got a really, really easy job. His job is to be an I5 ship that does exactly what Luke was doing with Wedge, of going on the opposite side of Wedge.
Yeah, he's got nothing. We got nothing.
He has a 3 dice primary attack, and if you're not looking at him, he takes away one of your dice.
Yeah.
And he's initiative
So
5.
basically, it's Wedge on one side, Thane on the other.
Yeah. Then we're gonna go and we're gonna get the bargains. We're gonna go bargain basement shopping. We're gonna take Lieutenant Blount.
Okay.
And we're gonna go into the A wings. And we're gonna take Derek.
Okay.
Okay, so we're now back to 4 ships, but we've still got 6 points left.
Blount has no upgrades at all.
No, but
0.
So now we need a way to consistently activate Blount. So we get to choose whether we want to do something that's going to be a big ship that's going to be in range. Or do we want like something like an Arc 170? Do we want to do something like a Nora Y-Wing that wants to be close because she's getting her extra evade? Or do we want something like an A-Wing which is going to be like slippery? Fang, we've got Rebel Fangs, remember? We could take... You could take... I'm not going to take Fenro, that's terrible idea. But Fen's just... Yeah, I wouldn't take Fenro. Because what happens is you go, yeah, Fenro, and then you remember it's not Scum Fenro and get sad.
Yeah, like, oops, oh, wait, I'm not getting the same ability. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, there is another thing we could do as well, is that that's what we'll do. We'll make it we're not going to spam the 2-point pilots. So we'll take away Derek. I've got a better idea.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a TIE fighter.
Ooh.
We're going to take Ezra Bridger in the TIE fighter that has a crew slot. So suddenly you just got Leia.
Oh.
And you know what? Ezra can have compassion. So your 3-point TIE fighter can pull damage off of the ships if you want to. whatever. You're only going to get to use Leia at a maximum of like twice in a game anyway, so it's fine. And then we've got 5 points left now. That makes it a little bit easier. You can take a U-Wing for some coordination. And you can basically pick anyone who isn't Saw Gerrera. Alright. I'm a fan of Cassian is cheating. K2so's pretty cheaty. Like after you gain a stress, you get to gain a calculate token. Magva, Yaro. Well, a friendly ship at range 0 to 2 defense, the attacker cannot reroll more than one attack. That seems pretty good, you know?
That was the one that I was leading to when I was hovering over pilot abilities.
Giant loadout value as well, 14. Not bad. So we've already got Leia on Ezra, so we don't need Leia. So we can then get some more force points maybe, or you could do like Jin if you want to get evade tokens on people. You could take K2so crew. You could do Darth Maul and get a force point, you know.
That's the only reason why you're there.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I actually think Maul is a good shout here, actually. 10 points for a force is probably pretty good. And then you've got sensor slots. You've got a second crew slot. We could do after perform a Bo-Katan. Defender was defrost. No. Hera, like you can execute red maneuvers while you're already stressed. Yeah, we could just keep stopping. That seems good. Yeah.
Parking objective, holding it.
Yeah, like you've got your soft mod from Maul anyway, you know, do that, why not?
Look at that.
But yeah, so you've still got 4 3-dice attack ships because theoretically something's going to be at range 1 for Blount.
Ideally, yeah.
Yeah. So you've got like 3 3-dice attack ships, 1 and like 2.5 dice, and then a TIE fighter whose only job is to be annoying, circle objectives, let Leia trigger.
Just fly around.
If Ezra is alive for Leia to trigger twice, good, great, you know. All right, and you can look at it as a direct trade here. If I put Ezra near an objective for 3 turns, and then you kill him, but I triggered Leia, I got Leia for free this game.
Yeah.
Because I got my 3 points, you got your 3 points, but I got a Leia out of it.
Yeah.
And all you do, Ezra's only job is to take the evade action and have a force point. So he's calculate, evaded every turn. Nothing else matters.
And then point him in the direction of some of those far off objectives to go snag.
Yeah. So, and then like Blount, you could maybe run with Thane as one flank, Wedge on the other, Magna closer to Wedge to get him calculate like coordinates and stuff. I mean, I suppose we could do that instead of Hera. We could just do the tactical officer, and then you get hopeful. I mean, a boosting Y-wing, a boosting U-wing seems like it could be fun.
That could be fun.
Right. So something's gonna die before Magba does.
I would hope.
Yeah. But no, I think that's a pretty good list. I think it's got 5 bodies. It's 2 of them are there to be your like objectively focused ships in Blount and Ezra. You've got 2 beat sticks in Thane and Wedge. Obviously, Wedge is a bigger beat stick. Magva can fill a multitude of roles. You don't mind wasting the action to coordinate because you've got Maul. You know, there's a lot of value hopefully coming from them only being able to reroll one die, so it shuts down target lock like kind of lists. But yeah, I think that would be a more beginner friendly list.
I like this one too. I think this is more my speed too, at
Yeah.
least right now.
Yeah, and obviously the things you can do is if you wanted to keep Luke instead of Wedge, you change Ezra back to Derek for your fast A-wing. And that gives you a 1 point you need to get Luke back over Wedge. If you want to drop Thane for a more expensive pilot, you can do the same and have 2 5 points instead of the 4. The only thing I think you're missing is native boosts, but you've got X-Wings which can do it with the wings closed. I don't yeah, I think there's a decent amount of stuff you can do here. Again, this is a list that I wouldn't be ashamed to run. I think you can win games with this. Whether it's like a highly competitive tournament winning list or not,
That's
I don't think.
nowhere
But
near
yeah,
what I'm looking for.
that isn't in the wheelhouse of what we do anyway anymore.
Right.
But,
That's nowhere near what I'm looking for is a list to learn the game with. The new game of 2.5 and one that I can consistently roll up to the table each and every time and like, all right, it's not going to get stomped on its first,
Yeah.
the first opening alpha. I have a plan. I know what that plan is. Now I just need to execute that plan.
Yeah,
Wedge is
and
gonna be over here with the U-wing. We're gonna send Thane over here, maybe with Blout kind of, and then Ezra's just gonna. All Ezra's job is take an evade token and just float around the peripheral and oops, snag an objective here, snag an objective there.
remember, Thane's I5, Wedge's I6, and they've both got
Mhm.
outmaneuver. There's a chance that your opponent just lets you deploy them both on the opposite flank.
Correct.
And then they both get to come in and outmaneuver the same targets and just wreck them.
That would be amazing.
That
And
would
like
be
you get to joust them with your U-wing, which is the most efficient. Like one of the most efficient jousting chassis in the game. Sorry, jousting airframes in the game.
Mhm.
Blount is really good value if you've got someone else at range 1. And obviously, Ezra, you just hard turn away and say, nope, I'm not here to joust. I'm here to run over in the other direction and get an objective.
Yep. That's my whole purpose in life.
Yeah.
And then maybe I get lucky and get an extra attack die.
Yeah. All right. I will use Leia, and then I've benefited now. That was my only goal. I got to use Leia. Yeah. But yeah, and obviously, like, if you want to, there's 3-point A-wings. There are different 3-point ships that you can take instead of Ezra. But this is just a way of getting Leia on the table, effectively. That it's a relatively annoying. Like, if you think Night Beast is annoying to kill, Ezra's the same.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna have the time where you roll 3 focuses, and it's gonna feel bad that you only managed to evade 2, but it doesn't matter.
But you're right, with the evade and the focus token, every turn, with any luck, for the most part, he's just going to be an annoyance.
Yep.
And hopefully one not worth going after whenever you've got things like outmaneuvered Wedge and outmaneuvered Thane breathing down your neck.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's it for me.
No, I like it. Saved. Next game I play, I think we'll have to do that. Which means we're going to schedule another game. Pick another list, any other list. I know you like that list, but pick one.
I'm in. I'll play anything else. It's fine.
Can we do a like versus like on that? Like maybe not. I'm not talking a mirror match, but one that's down to my level.
Yeah, I will run. I still have to fly some vultures and stuff, so I'll fly my
Oh, that'll be
separatist
fun.
list.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. You can kill some droids. They're not people.
Yay!
It's okay.
It's okay. Totally okay.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to cover tonight?
No, that was it. I wanted to keep it as like a concise X-Wing show for episode 100 and just,
that was our gift.
Yeah.
That was our gift for episode 100. We actually talked primarily about, I think I mentioned 40K once. So
Yeah.
there, we did it. It is capable of happening. All right, so before we roll out, I do want to take the opportunity to mark the occasion of 100 episodes of hanging out with these guys. We have been doing this for a really, really long time. I'm gonna try not to get teary-eyed on this one, but legitimately, I couldn't imagine wanting to do this with anybody else. We talk all the time, whether it's on this show or in a Facebook chat, or we're talking about video games, or we're talking about pies, or we're talking about all this other stuff. These are two of my closest and dearest friends. I don't get to see them in person nearly enough. So the only way that I get the opportunity to hang out with them is through stuff like this, and through this show, through our D&D groups, through all the other stuff. Being able to maintain this friendship for as long as we have doing this has been very special to me. I'm just, it's not work. It's never work. It's never boring. It's never dragging. I never get to the point like, oh God, I got to do a show today. It's never been that way, because it means that it gets my opportunity to hang out with two of my best friends in the whole world. So to both of you, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to 100 more. Like, legitimately, we can keep doing this.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
we can.
I mean,
Trying to keep it short.
as long as X-Wing will exist, we can do an X-Wing show for another 100 episodes.
Heck yeah. And
Otherwise, we can morph it into anything else. So.
yeah, I was gonna say, well, worst case, I mean, this is legitimately worst case scenario. If at some point in time AMG lost the license and X-Wing wasn't a thing anymore, we would migrate this into something else. We would just do something else. The show would keep going. It would just migrate into something else.
Yep.
That's all I had.
No, it's been a pleasure. I mean, it's strange because I didn't like 7 years ago. This isn't where I thought my life would be, but here we are, you know. And
Here we are.
yeah, it's been interesting. We've had our ups and downs, the highs and lows, but I think we're doing well. Like I wouldn't trade what we have for what any other podcast has. I enjoy what we do, and that we get to do it the way we want to do it. So yeah,
I like the old show had its purpose in its time, but if I had to legitimately pick one over the other, I like this better. It's way more casual, way more fun. I don't feel like I have to keep on the bleeding edge of what's going on in the competitive worlds and tournaments. And it's definitely more up to speed with my style of gaming right now. Like, it was different. It was different 7 years ago when I was going to tournaments every other weekend and we were doing regionals and store championships, and all of that stuff was super important at the time. But I'm in a different phase in my life where I'm just more interested in just having fun and rolling
yeah,
dice, and this definitely is a reflection of where I am in my gaming life right now.
yeah,
That's the funny thing you say that, because I wasn't a competitive player truly. I was a competitive game runner for this game, and I think for me, I put in as much time at preparing for tournaments and not playing but running the things. It's much nicer just to be able to not have to worry about that and watch other people stress about that, and
yeah,
and just enjoy the time with you guys. It's one of the things I think a lot of people forget, is that when you get into this adulthood and you have kids and you have other things going on, a lot of times you lose yourself in those other things, and you don't get things that, like hobbies or friendships that help you survive in those other things. That's the one of the hard things I think people don't always understand. And I've run the gamut. My kids are grown, they're out of the house. I have two cats, I have adult money, but I have friends, and friends that I can go to for questions, or that they can come to for questions, or stresses in life and things like that. It's not just X-Wing, and it's not just the show itself. It's just like I had said, we are friends, and we have moments in time where we're stressed, and we can talk to each other about that, and just do the things that friends do, and the show is kind of like a cherry on top where we can get together, and I know a lot of it recently has not been the most X-Wing related, but ultimately, if you could talk about games when you're in your 40s and 50s, I think you're doing pretty darn good in your life.
Heck yeah.
I
You know,
think for me anyway, Sean, yeah, we've always tried to keep some grounding of X-Wing somewhere, but I never wanted it to be fake or false. And like, if we're not doing it, not passionate about it, there's no point talking about it. I would rather talk about something that we currently care about and are passionate about, and let that excitement bleed into what we're discussing, than force a bland conversation about the latest tournament result that none of us attended.
right.
And
Well,
that's not an attack or a knock on any other podcasts out there, because people do things
Ourselves
their own
included,
way.
because
But
we did do that.
yeah, but I just, that's why I think this is better, because we just go with the flow and do what we want, and people listen. We're not the biggest podcast. We put very, very little effort into trying to be. We just do it, and hopefully the people listening enjoy it. And like,
yeah. One of the funny things is that we just went through 2.5 years of the strangest years in our lives, and you look at how much it affected the gaming industry and the gaming itself. The only thing that kept X-Wing alive, really and truthfully, are podcasts and online leagues and things like that. And the online tournaments that took place. That for me, I didn't really pay much attention to those. Once in a while, I'd tune in, but and that's we're hitting that point where we're getting back into you definitely, Kris, are there where you're at in-store play, where you're running, a game night for it, weekly. And here in Omaha, they're going to finally start up a face-to-face. They did a little bit here and there, but with the game shop opening up gaming space in a couple weeks, that's going to open up face-to-face leagues. There's another store that has a face-to-face league, but they're not running anything remotely close. They're kind of running like a bootleg league of X-Wing, and because they don't like, the people running it don't like 2.5 at all, and it's
I
just
mean,
like,
there's going to be long quaves and holdouts, and that's fine.
yeah, no, I
As
get
long,
that.
as long as everyone gets to find the game that they enjoy, that's all that matters.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And for me, since the league's starting up, guess what? I get to go to a league and I get to put ships down, and then I get to play a game or two, and then I get to get up and walk out without having to worry about anything else, which will be
Not collecting scores, not
not
keeping
collecting
spread.
sto
No
yeah,
spreadsheets to see who's in first. Yep,
yep.
I hear you.
And it'll be nice where if I want to just play one game that night, I could get up and walk out, and
Yeah.
that'll be something new for me, which will be fun, and exciting overall. I just,
Yeah.
I'm just glad the world's sort of coming back to normal, but with X-Wing and our podcast, I don't think it's going to change much.
No.
I'm not going to worry about tournaments. I'm not going to worry about winning tournaments if I decide to play in one, and it'll just be fun.
Yeah. And I think I've said a few times, X-Wing's a fun game, right?
It is.
It is.
It is.
Definitely is.
Oh, there we go. I think that's a good place to end it, man.
I agree. You have some
I agree.
housekeeping you'd like to do, good sir?
Again, it's basically thanking all the patrons. They're amazing. The fact that people pay us to listen is often astounding and a very big help for everything we do. So thank you. 100 shows in, and we're still going strong. So thanks a lot for that.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Again, all of the people who've come and gone or whatever, I thank you to you as well. Hopefully you can still enjoy just listening and like never worry about it. People's lives change. It's not that important to us. We're not going to go away. There's no minimum level or we're not recording kind of thing.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no, we're gonna do this anyway.
yeah, it's a giant help. Obviously, you can support us through Lack of Focus podcast on Patreon. That one is a per show. So generally, we just tell people to do $1 a show. Don't go crazy. If you'd like to support just on a monthly basis, you can support Dice Hate on Patreon, which is just a fixed monthly one. It all goes into the same pot, and it helps cover the hosting of a podcast on SoundCloud, Podbean, all of the editing software that I have to pay for monthly. I've started the process for revamping the Dice Hate website, so written content should be able to come back in the not too distant future. I actually have a meeting on Monday with one of the local government organization things to look at getting help to make sure I'm setting the website up in the best way and actually trying to do it properly. You know what I mean? So hopefully that goes well and there'll be a better home for all of the content to live. The biggest thank you, I think, goes out to our Discord community as well, which includes all our patrons, obviously. But I really enjoy it. It's hard to say because I'm in a couple of Discords that are a lot bigger and a lot more active, and
Not the same.
no, it's not. It's very we'll have spurts of activity, but everyone's involved and it's very personal and like personable. Like there's no like internet culture in there really. It's very nice. I like it. I don't have to learn all of a new lingo as an old person. Yeah.
That is difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thankfully for me, one of the I work with a young lady in our department who's in her early 20s. Her primary job, aside from assisting me in database stuff, is to keep me up with what terms are that are being used. If I hear a term like, what does that mean? I need a definition.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, that's it. Obviously, you can find us on Facebook. You can email us at lackoffocuspodcast@gmail.com. I've had a bunch of messages and like different chats. I actually had a really good comment question on the YouTube videos. So like, people can ask questions on YouTube and stuff. So I mean, I can address that one now. It's an X-wing one. It's a very quick one, but it's basically someone asking why auto thrusters are so good. And again, I plan on doing an actual breakdown video for it and addressing it on, I say, on YouTube properly anyway. But the crux of it comes down to the question was in relation to Fang Fighters and Fenro in particular, giving Fenro the option to be able to boost barrel roll and then link it into a focus is really, really strong because it makes him be able to play more like a traditional ace and a brawler. Because whilst he has both repositions, he can only ever do one of them without auto thrust. Not auto thrusters, afterburners. And then if you put it just on a normal Fang, again, being able to boost and have a focus token without stressing yourself allows you to K-turn and threaten a lot more things the next turn and gives you better ways of getting up close into a range 1, which is where we want to be. And then finally, when we're living in a 2.5 world of objectives, it lets people play the game that they're not normally able to because there's only Jedi and like sensitive controls ships that can boost to get closer to objectives and still have their action left. Afterburners lets everybody play that game.
Yes.
Whether you have a boost on your action bar or not, suddenly you can play the game so you can threaten that center objective. Whereas in normally you can't. So it just it levels the playing field. I hope that they never take Afterburners away, because I feel like it's a grand leveler for X-Wing. So that was a question on YouTube. I answered it in a long, rambly, point by point text thing on YouTube, but there's the verbal answer again. So yeah. But if you message us, ask any questions, I always try and answer them to the best of my ability. So there you go.
Good answer. All right, so that is going to do it for the Century Mark episode 100. Sean, always good hanging out with you.
Always good to be here.
Kris, always good hanging out with you, my friend.
99 times out of 100, I'd agree.
And we actually have a data pool to pull that from now. All right, so that is going to do it for this one. We do appreciate you tuning in. We'll talk to you again in 2 weeks. And until then, as always,
thank you once again for joining the Lack of Focus X-Wing podcast. Check out Dice Hate Productions for all the latest episodes, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you again next episode.